Hello, everyone, and welcome to yet another episode of Observable Flutter. I'm your host, Craig Labenz. Oh, it's supposed to be on this screen. Well, StreamYard's being silly today. It's got me all zoomed out. There's this padding around the outside that's the same as the background. Very silly. Anyway, I'm your host, Craig Labenz, and today we have a brand new, unexpected surprise announcement in store, and I'm very excited to share it with my guests, and I'll get to in just a second after we all remember that this is the Flutter community, folks. We're living and breathing under the Flutter community guidelines, the code of conduct. So let's definitely bring that great spirit here and just be wonderful to each other. Okay. My guest today, weirdly cropped in the middle here, thank you StreamYard, is none other than my great teammate, Khanh Nguyen. Khanh, I will defer all further introduction for you. So Khanh, welcome to Observable Flutter, and would you like to say a few words about yourself?
Hi, Craig. Thank you for having me. Hey everyone. My name is Khanh, and I'm a developer relations engineer. I get the privilege of sitting next to Craig every day and making a bunch of YouTube videos for Flutter. So that's been a lot of fun for me. I see a lot of familiar names in the chat too. So thank y'all for showing up this early in the morning. I guess for us it's 9 a.m. here.
Yep. Yeah, it's different times for everybody, of course. All right. So I'm just scanning the chat real quick. We've got a lot of guesses. I do want to say at least one person that I've seen has guessed it correctly. So if you have guessed something, you might be right. But without further ado, Khanh.
Yes.
I'm clicking. I've got to find a thing here. Here we go. Okay. The announcement is
The Google AI Dart SDK.
hey.
So if y'all have been keeping up with the Medium blog post, go ahead, Craig.
I was just going to give AMG their credit.
Yep.
Immediately, as soon as the stream started, they typed the correct answer. So nice job.
No prizes, but you get kudos. You get brownie points.
Yeah, 10 points to house AMG. Okay, Khanh, you were saying.
Yes. So if you were keeping an eye on the Medium blog post, keen-eyed viewers here, you'll have seen that Ander actually released Ander, our wonderful PM, released a blog post talking about the whole thing this morning. And so we wanted to have a stream and sort of chat about it with y'all.
Khanh,
There's a lot of excitement.
This is a really long URL here. You want to also just pull up the
yes,
the blog post on your screen, and then I'll bring your screen up.
I have it here for you.
All right, brilliant.
Cool. So here it is. Here is the blog post. Ander is very thorough here. So it goes through some of our examples, and we'll take a look at this example app in a little bit later today. But so there's literally step-by-step how to get started with Gemini with your Flutter app. So that is Ander's blog post.
Incredible. And we're going to be working through a video complement to this blog post by building something with it ourselves.
Let's see here.
So there's a couple other links, Khanh, that you had talked about wanting to cover.
Yep.
So we've got the blog post, and then there's links to like the repo and stuff as well, right?
Yep. Yes. So the pub package is called the Google Generative AI package. I think I see a few requests here of folks asking to pin the blog post in the chat here. But admittedly, let's see if I can.
I will do my best. All right. Normally you can't share links. Maybe as the host you can. I'm going to try to put it in the chat. We'll see.
Let me hop in the chat as.
Okay, it seems to have gone through, maybe. We'll see.
Can we post here? Let's try this. Can y'all see the link is the question. Let's see if it's
we just did the same thing.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. So I think the host is actually able to post links. So that's some sanity restored to the YouTube chat situation. But yeah,
Sweet.
okay. So there's the blog post, and then Khanh is currently showing the package on pub.
Yep, this is the package on pub. So if you want to go ahead and install it with your Flutter app and then go ahead and start using it, it's right there. And there's also a sweet quick start guide that we have just to show you essentially, again, step by step, how to go through the process. And if you've used the SDK for any of the other languages as well, so it follows very similar structure there
Oh,
as
Khanh,
well.
can you command plus plus? Just make all this
Yep,
text a lot bigger.
there you go.
Nice.
Yes, and Parker just called out. It also works for pure Dart apps too. So there's a few scripts we'll be running through as well. Just regular old Dart scripts does not have to be a Flutter app.
Yep. Yeah, this is not tied to Flutter in any way, though obviously any pure Dart package can be used in a Flutter app. But
Yep.
you could use it on the command line, which we debated doing today.
Yes. We've tried to think up a few cool demo projects, but so we're like, okay, we'll go through our paces and we'll see how far we get.
Yep.
So yeah.
All right. So let's see. Going back to the thing here. All right. I think that next we want to go through a. Well, actually, am I skipping anything? Oh, the quick start.
Yeah, quick start guide, and I have the GitHub repo as well. So there's of course the GitHub repo where y'all can feel free, like, pop in file issues, file pull requests, and as Flutter is, feel free to like open issues, pull requests, and all that good stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. So, Khanh, what can we do with this?
What can we do? That's a good question. So let's pop back
Oh,
here. I have an app
David had the
running.
same one.
There we go. What can we do with it? So a few use cases that we've seen here.
Okay. Also,
So
Khanh, real quick,
yep,
Command plus plus.
Command plus. Okay.
Yeah, folks are going to watch on their
Thank you for the
phone.
tips.
Yeah, perfect.
All
And
right,
then
is that better?
maybe two more.
Two more? All right.
Yeah, I go cartoonishly big. Yeah, this looks
Okay.
good.
All right. Is that better?
Yes.
Okay, cool. So here's just a quick example of a simple text API call. So I think I saw someone say before, like an API is literally just make the call and then you'll get back a response here. The SDK itself just makes the interface a lot easier, and you don't have to do too much processing of the response that comes back. And so here, basically what the script does is it takes in your API key. So if y'all have played with the API before, you'll already have, if you've been in MakerSuite, you can generate an API key from there. So that's at makersuite.google.com. And so you can generate an API key there. And then you'll have to pass it as an environment variable, and it'll read into the script. And by the way, if y'all were curious, all of these sample apps are in the GitHub repo. So I can actually, let me share that in the chat so that y'all have access to it as we go along. And feel free, clone the repo, follow along with us. The examples are all in there right there. So cool, I have that. Okay, so the API key, once you have an API key, you want to make sure you provide that as an environment variable. And in this case here, we're constructing a generative model. And in this case, we're using Gemini Pro. There's a second example, which we'll look at in a second, where you use Gemini Pro Vision and you get to pass images as well. So once you pass the model name and the API key, you can start prompting the model for a response. So in this case, we ask, write a story about a magic backpack. And so we print the prompts just so we can see what it is on the command line. And then we get the prompt and then we form a content list to submit that to Gemini. And then here, this just counts the number of tokens. And then again, we print that number of tokens. And then finally, we can ask the model to say, hey, generate content for this prompt. And it'll give us a response. and we can pull out the text values from it. So really what you could essentially do is you don't need to get the token count here, right? But so you can just submit and ask a question. So that is just a simple text prompt there.
There's one question that I want to get at, and someone has already answered it in the chat, but I think it's worth talking about as well. Kagitayo, a Flutter and Dart GDE, says, how do we keep the API key secure? And then Boolean, a longtime viewer, regular around these parts, had what I would consider the correct answer. The only way to keep it safe is to make calls from your own backend server. Then of course, then your backend server has the job of ensuring that it is in fact being invoked from a valid instance of the app. So there is kind of always there's an imperfection at some point in these kind of things, but yeah, in general, this API key is going to be hard to make perfectly secure. But that's kind of the nature of these kinds of APIs.
Yep, there's always a trade-off somewhere.
And then Khanh, also a lot of questions about cost of the API.
So right now, like you can get an API key and use it with from MakerSuite.
Oh, nice. Okay, so it's just
Yep.
you get a key, you get going. There is no cost right now.
I would have to double check on that actually. Now that I realize I just kind of plugged my billing account in and then I went. So that's a very good question that you just asked.
Okay, yeah. That is a funny oversight. I see Kevmu, last week's guest in the chat, 100% agreeing to something and having a video about how to optimize your API key security. Kev, do you happen to know the cost? I mean, I presume there is just a pricing page somewhere, but this just was announced this morning, and so honestly, I haven't had any time to look over the pricing myself. So those are good questions.
Sorry, here, I just pulled it up. I had the page pulled up and then I just completely lost the tab.
Oh.
So here, so there's a mixture. So there's like a free of charge tier where it's just free. So that's been the tier that I've been using.
Oh,
Like
Khanh, can you pull that into your shared space?
Yes, I'm pulling it up right now. There we go. Google AI for developers. So free of charge tier. And there's the pay-as-you-go tier. So it depends on the rate at which you're querying, essentially. And so these are your pricing.
Okay, and I'm not going to lie, it is hard for me looking at this off the top of my head to have a sense of whether, like, what does this mean? I don't know.
Well, essentially, so for me, right, at least when I'm querying, I am not querying the silly 60 queries per minute, simply because it's me and I'm just testing out the app. I'm sending a prompt at a time. So the number of queries is pretty limited. If you're, just doing a hobbyist side project, sort of, I'm building this out for fun as sort of I've been playing with this API, then, you will not hit the pay-as-you-go tier, right? You're just going to be able to just keep hitting the endpoint. But 60 queries per minute, that would be quite a bit, actually.
Yeah. I mean, it's a lot if you're developing. It's obviously not a lot if you have users in your app. Back on the API key security, Todd, great to see you. Todd is the director of engineering for Flutter, for anyone who don't know. Says, yeah, you can avoid checking your API key into source control and specify by passing it through the command line or reading it from a file. And then you still have to supply this somewhere. So I would probably use Secret Manager on Google Cloud to like pull that down at build time. But then that will keep your API key from being in Git. It'll still be in your app, of course. Someone could reverse the actual bytes of your app and read it at some point, but such is the nature, again, of client-side API keys.
And to be clear, the samples that we're showing today, the instructions specifically tell you to pass it through the command line using the Dart define flag, as opposed to embedding it directly in your code as well. But of course, like you said there, like it can still be reverse engineered in the app itself.
Yep. But So is it time to use our 60 queries per minute, which
And
we
I
will
think
struggle to hit?
yes, and Eric pointed out this is also coming soon to Google AI Studio. So there's actually no pay-as-you-go tier either, it looks like. So free of charge, so you can get the API key in Google AI Studio.
Oh, I'm
All right.
looking for where Eric even said that.
In
About
the
the AI
chat.
Studio. Oh, well, great. Thank you, Eric. I do see something.
Cool.
Anyway, all right.
All right, let me pull
God,
this window
shall we
out of the
build
way.
something?
We can build
Whoa.
something. All right,
Getting
okay.
exciting
I'm not
already.
used to seeing my window this big.
Oh yeah, take some getting used to. It feels like your font, the letters were brought to you by Fisher Price or something. Which for
Something like that.
those outside of
Okay.
the States, that's a little kids toy manufacturer in America.
Okay, cool. So I also wanted to give a shout out on this sample. So John Ryan and our team contributed this sample to the repo. So I've just been doing a lot of work, just like working on styling and design and stuff with him there as well. So it's been super awesome to get to play with the API and the sample widget, or the sample app. Let's take a look at the widget itself. All right. Yes, go John.
Indeed.
All right. So here's let's go through the sample app first. And I mean, this is a very straightforward chat interface, right? So you can send a message and you get a response and that will populate. All right. So if I say, Craig, what should I prompt for?
Why don't we ask it, what are some good prompts?
Okay. What are some good prompts? So we can ask Gemini to summarize things. Yep. There you go. Personal growth prompts. Okay. Let's see. Creative writing prompts.
Wow.
Feel free to drop your votes in the comments. What we should prompt.
Oh yeah. One of my favorite head scratcher questions is, why don't arm hairs get split ends? No one seems to have a good answer to that.
Do you think Gemini will have an answer?
It might. I've never asked an LLM that. I'd also be interested in having a quick tour of the actual code in the sample. I don't know if you were planning on that.
Yes, I figured we would probably just like take it through its paces. We'll get a response back, and then we can go through the code, so that folks can see where the different features are coming in. All right, let's see. Okay, let's see, what's the relationship between golf ball and the moon?
Mm.
Does that work?
I can't hit either one with a golf club. That's a relationship. Both of them strangely elusive. I'm trying to hit them with a golf club.
All right. Okay, cool. So that's just basically there. So you can prompt it, you can ask it things. So let's go through the code. Okay.
Yep.
Folks want to see the code. All right. Okay. So this is the Flutter app right there. So this is in the samples directory in the repo. And if you go to Flutter app, everything is within this main.dart file. And here, so we run the app. We call this the generative AI sample. For those of you folks who care about the designing and theming, this is the setting we're using. This is the example we used, dark theme, because I like the dark themes, as you can tell from my IDE. And then the seed color was just a nice little light blue, pastel blue color. Oh, and I don't think we need this anymore because it's now true by default.
Indeed.
So we can probably get rid of that. I'll open a PR for that after we get offline.
Just surprised you didn't get a lint for that said you were supplying the default value. It's interesting.
Yeah. I thought it would flag it. I just looked, I just realized that now.
Anyway, okay. So carrying on, we've got this
All
chat
right,
screen.
carrying on. Chat screen state. There's nothing super eventful there, and the chat widget is the star of the show here. So this and the chat widget will have all of our logic in it, essentially. So few state variables here. And Craig, feel free to jump in and interrupt me if I start steamrolling ahead a little bit too fast. I do have a tendency to do that.
You're doing great.
So the generative model itself, there's the chat session. So there's the API itself comes with a chat version, which I'll show you the example here just so that we can make it a little bit more simple. So there's the chat version, which means that you can have the context of going back and forth with Gemini, and you don't actually have to keep updated state of the chat itself because the chat will stay updated with that conversation that you're having with Gemini as you make those API calls.
Yeah, and
Um,
to kind of highlight what's going on there, right? The LLM is totally stateless. So every single request, like it's just kind of waking up from scratch, 51st date style and asking you what your name is. So in this chat mode, the SDK is actually doing the work of kind of bundling all the previous back and forths and sending them every single time so that you can have what resembles a coherent conversation.
Yep. And so here, this is essentially like pretty standard Flutter app things like a scroll controller to make sure like the list view scrolls. There's a text controller to get the text value from the text field and a focus node. And then there's a Boolean state value for loading. So whenever we're sending a prompt for it to get a response, we'll set that loading state to be able to determine whether we're waiting for a response or not. So there. And then in init state, here we're initializing the generative model itself. And like I mentioned before, this can be Gemini Pro or Gemini Pro Vision. I think I saw a comment a little bit earlier that you probably don't want to process through directly as a string, like you could have an enum or something like that to make sure you can switch in between. And just run better checks on it. And then API key, like I mentioned before, I think as Todd flagged as well. So in this case, we're passing the API key as an environment variable using the Dart define flag. The way that I like to do that is I will set the API key as an environment variable, and then I'll pass that environment variable through Dart define, and I set API key equals, and then that value.
Nice.
So you guys making a chat app. Technically, we already made this chat app, and we're just showcasing it right now. If we have some extra time, we figure we'll run through and try to build out a cool new, a different type of app where you can actually tweak the prompts a little bit more to get different types of responses. So hopefully we have a little bit of extra time at the end for that. Cool. Kroken did not know the string from environment method. You know what? It's a useful one. It's a helpful one. Cool.
You've come to the right place to learn the hard-hitting Flutter facts.
Truly, I feel like every day I just learn something new about Flutter, and a lot of the times that's from the community on Twitter. So, okay, cool. And so finally, we initialize the chat by calling the model and then start chat right there. This is nothing too fancy here. It's a method to scroll down that animates a scroll down effect on the list view whenever there's a new message populating. And then here's the build method. A lot of this is just styling here, as you can see. So I added some padding and, when you enter a prompt. So this looks like a very, it's a standard Flutter app, and we get to integrate Gemini into it with actually just a couple more lines of code. So you're going to see that as I scroll through, a lot of this is styling the UI and making it look good. But in terms of functionality, there's really only a few more lines that we're adding to, a classic chat UI that you may have already built as you were learning Flutter, or just sort of trying to figure it out, or like cloning the chat app from our samples repo, right? So there's a lot of ways where you can integrate Gemini in just a couple of extra lines. Okay, so let me come back to this actually, but just so for context, this is where we build the list view of chat messages. We can come back to this. I want to show y'all the send chat method where you actually send the message first. So let me pop down here. So here we have the text fields, and then on submitted, it'll just send chat message with the value of the text field itself. And so we'll go down.
Oh, we could have used a tear off there.
Yes.
For unsubmitted.
Yep, we could have. I think originally it had just been shoved into there, and then I think we moved it out and then I did not think to move that out here. Okay. Cool. So the send chat message method, which we were talking about before. So first off, we were sending chat, set loading to true, and that's what initiates the little progress indicator where the send message or where the send button was. And so we can try to send a message. So we go await send message. This is a method just available on the chat. And then we create a piece of content with text that says, well, with the message itself. And then so we await that and get a response. And then here we can get back, when we get back a response, you can call the .text and get the text value from that response. And in this case, if the text is equal to null, then you say, well, we just didn't get a response. And then otherwise, we can just set loading to false, and then we scroll down in the list view. And then here, there's also some error handling, as well as a finally block that will just clear the text controller because that prompt has been used and set state to false, and then it gives the text field focus again. And here is the show error. It shows a dialog box that will essentially tell you that something went wrong along with the error message there. Have I missed over anything, Craig, so far?
No, I think that seems like a pretty good tour.
Right.
A lot of like the focus stuff, not really related to Gemini in any way, but I think a lesser publicized set of, or like corner of the Flutter API, but that, especially that request focus, that's going to obviously put the cursor back on the text field just to create a nice user experience at the end. So those kind of things are good to keep in mind.
Mm-hmm. Cool. So now that we've seen the send message, so here you can see the icon button, send chat message here. And so we go back up to the list view builder, actually. This is where it was sort of interesting to me, sort of understanding how the API works. So you'll notice that in send chat message, we never actually stored the response. And that is because we don't have to, because the SDK essentially does that for us in the chat model, right? And so here, you can call chat history and turn that into a list, and you essentially just have a list of the responses that have gone back and forth between you and the API. And so here you pull out the content, and then so this one is essentially just iterating through the list of chat history and getting each piece of content, each response, and each piece of content. So either Gemini gave you that response, or that is a prompt that you sent to Gemini, and it'll keep track of it there. And then here you can pull out the text by going through the content and its parts. So here it's pulling out specifically the text part. I think this is essentially just a part of, there can be potentially different content types in the future. And so right now we just have to loop through it. And essentially actually right now it's multimodal. So for, say, example, an image, right? Like it would have a different part that is not a text part. It would be like an image part there. So we're looping through and getting all the text part and then putting it into a widget, a message widget that will then display. And here is from user. So you can check the content.role to see who the sender is. So in this case, if it's from the user, we'll want to color it differently and align it differently. As you can see over here in the sample, you get a blue text box that's on the right as opposed to on the left. But so if I go down to
And that role, I was just reading a chat message. I think you may have just talked about this, but that role attribute is also maintained by the SDK.
yes.
We're not doing that.
Yep, that's correct. We're not doing
Yeah.
anything with it. That's a part of a content
Nice.
value. Yeah.
Nice.
So if we pop down here, I'll just quickly show you that code where message widget. I'm right here and I was going to Command F it. So yeah, so is from user. So it just colors it a little bit differently there, because if it's from the user, you want to differentiate it from a message that is from Gemini. But essentially that is it, right? Like we basically took a chat UI and integrated Gemini AI functionality with a couple of lines there. And as someone who is very new to this territory, like working with AI and prompting things like that, that was super fun for me because it felt very approachable, at least.
Yeah, nice. Well, this is a great sample and just as good of a tour of it. We have a couple of pretty interesting questions in the chat that I think we should get to. And then, Khanh, what do you say we do some typing ourselves and
Yep, we can go ahead and
add
try
some
that.
functionality to this? So let's see here. I'm going to unstar ones we've already gotten to. Oh, languages. Yeah, this is an interesting one. I know like Gemini, Bard for a long time has worked in tons of languages. Is there like a language header somewhere in this?
That's
I'm
a really good
looking at the
question. I
code
haven't
myself.
worked with it in different languages.
Yeah, a
That
couple
is a
of you
really
have asked good questions that have made me pull up the GitHub repo on the side monitor here. I'm just looking at the code to see if I can figure out the answers to them.
Yeah.
If not, that is a high value feature that needs to be added. So that's a good question, David. Or
Yeah.
David potentially.
Yeah, because I'm trying to think of it. If I know, like in Gemini, like the web app itself, I think it has a multitude, it has a lot of languages that it supports, but whether the API itself supports multiple languages is a good
I just had a
question.
thought. Why don't we just ask it a question in Spanish and see if it responds in Spanish? Maybe it's not a language header situation.
Okay, what time is it in Paris?
Do you know how to say that in
Thank you,
Spanish?
David. ¿Qué hora es en Paris? David helped me out there.
Oh, we're getting a question in Spanish.
My 5
Wonderful.
years of Spanish is coming in handy.
All right. Yeah. ¿Qué hora es en
Let's see.
París? Let's see if it responds in Spanish.
Oh, okay.
All right. It works in Spanish. Nice. Great. I love this question. Just what is in Spanish? Or what is in Paris?
Would it tell me the Eiffel Tower?
Let's find out.
Let's see.
Only our Spanish speaking audience is going to be able to read all the details of this. That's
Okay, wait.
all in
My
Spanish.
5 years of Spanish is going to come in useful. Okay. Paris is the capital of France, and it's one of the cities most visited in the world.
Something.
Okay, that's all I got. Senora Satterfield. That's all I got after it has been 10 years.
All right, pretty good all around. So it works in Spanish, and your 5 years of Spanish are pretty good. Oh, this was I just thought this was a super funny prompt idea. Did you hear about Updog?
I feel like I'm out of the loop.
That's clever. Wait, Khanh, really?
No,
you haven't heard about Updog?
What? No, I have not.
Oh, we're so close to this hitting. I'm not going to spoil it yet. I'm surprised you haven't heard about Updog. Huh. Okay. I'm going to keep trying. I'm going to keep trying.
What's Updog? Wow, I just played myself on a live stream. So close.
I was basically just going to keep trying until we got it. Okay, that was very funny. And then from the same person, a good question. Can you stream the response? Yes, there is a stream response method. I had to look up in the code because I didn't know. But yeah, so we're looking at the make request method, and there's also right next to it just stream request. So you can. And here's a good one. Okay.
Ooh,
Oh yeah, no,
there you
no,
go.
you go, Con.
Oh no, I was just gonna say I'm like Victor and Arhel were saying that was like amazing Spanish. So I'm very proud of myself right now. That was
Oh,
all.
nice. Yeah,
Thank y'all for making me feel better.
nice. Great job. All right, Sagittarius asking from the cosmos. So if the SDK maintains the chat history implicitly, does it also send the whole chat again to the front end whenever it receives a response? And that is the detail I think is worth talking about here. If that happens, then Flutter has to re-render all messages. So this is really more a question of like understanding how Flutter renders stuff, pretty independent of the implementation um, of the SDK that we're looking at here. So just very, very, very quick primer. Like whenever a widget is marked dirty because you call set state somewhere, every widget under that is going to implicitly be rebuilt because the build method will call and that'll instantiate new widgets, even if they're the same ones as the old ones. It'll eventually bounce its way, it being Flutter will eventually bounce its way into those new widgets build methods, and they may return mostly the same stuff all the way down. And that's kind of the whole point of Flutter, is that you can rebuild a widget tree that is largely similar to the previous one. And then the element tree, which sits behind that, will detect those similarities and minimize the amount of work that Flutter does. Now, ultimately, in the end, when you get down to impeller, like everything is just re-rendered in the GPU anyway. It doesn't really like cache individual pixels that it thinks might it be able to reuse. So in general, whenever anything changes in your Flutter app, like probably everything is being re-rendered in a meaningful way. And, this isn't really going to change that in any way. But then going back to the SDK, yeah, it sends the whole chat message back. It gets the response. And then, we're just calling set state, putting a bunch of widgets in a build method, and then Flutter takes it from there and figures out what elements are the same, which ones are new, all that good stuff. But that's just kind of fun gears of how Flutter works. Okay, and then the last question that I had starred, but I'm behind on chat now, so there might be more good ones. Emma asked, will all the text persist automatically on restart? And there I have not tested this, but I would bet good money that answer is no, that this is just all in memory. And unless you use some kind of persistent, some kind of long-lived persistence yourself on restart, the chat would be lost. Hot reload, yes, because that's all
I'm
hot
on
reload.
web right now, so we don't currently have a hot reload, but I just did a hot restart, so it wipes everything.
Yep. Okay, so that I'm going to quickly skim, but actually, Con, pass the baton back to you as I skim chat that I missed.
I just wanted to flag there was a comment where someone's looking at, I think, the GitHub page, and they wanted to change something about the code and asked if they could add lint rules and fix it all up. Oh, Todd.
Yeah, clarifying the details of widget reuse.
Yep. Thanks, Todd. I was gonna say, like, please, like, feel free. The team is working on it, and if you want to open PRs, we're very, very open to that. And as with anything, it's always gonna be a work in progress. So if you have any suggestions and recommendations, run into bugs or even issues, please do file an issue and open a PR if you want to fix it yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. The beauty of open source. Okay, Con, it's time.
Yes.
We're gonna build something new.
Okay.
And you had a fun idea. Are you still feeling good about it?
Yeah, I wanted to get, I guess, your opinion and the audience opinion as well. I was thinking about it would be fun. I've been playing with some prompts in Google AI Studio, trying to get magic 8-ball answers. One of the things I really like, what was one of the projects I remember in, like CS 101, we had to build magic 8-ball command line tools. I was like, it'd be pretty cool to do that with Gemini because then the responses will be dynamic and you can get a different response every time. But that was my thought. But what do you think? What do you all think?
I like that idea, and I just had like a possible approach for it that's
Mhm,
popping in my head right now. I don't know if it's also what you were thinking, but it
mhm.
would be kind of fun if we basically asked Gemini to predict the likelihood of a certain event and then phrase its prediction in a Magic 8 Ball way. Like
Mm.
it'd be kind of fun to say, like, is the sun going to rise tomorrow, and reliably get some Magic 8 Ball answer, but it's like, yeah, it will.
Mhm.
And then, will I win the lottery tomorrow? It'd be fun if it says very reliably, again, some Magic 8
Yeah.
Ball answer of, no, sorry, you're not going to win the lottery tomorrow. So in terms of, I don't know if you were just thinking, randomize, give me some answer that sounds like Magic 8 Ball versus actually
Mhm.
tying it to reality. Could be kind of fun, but I don't know what you're thinking. And then also, as you said, would love to hear ideas if anyone has some in the chat.
Yeah, I think that would be a super cool. I was sort of thinking something similar. I think coming up with the prompts for it will be interesting. Just because I have tried like a little bit with Google AI Studio where I was like, okay, you're a Magic 8 Ball, and like this is you want to answer these questions in this way. So to give it a little bit of personality. So I think it would be really interesting if it could answer as a sort of certain personality. Because for me, I think I told it to be like, be snarky and witty or something like that. So each response was a little bit snarky and a little bit witty.
Right. Okay. So, Khanh, how would you approach this? I know you've been playing with this a little bit more than I have recently. Do you go into Maker Studio, or maybe that was renamed?
Google
And
AI Studio.
Google AI Studio.
So it's
And
aistudio.google.com now. Can I post that as a comment?
so do you go there and kind of tinker with prompt, the surrounding sentences around the prompt, or do you
Yeah.
just approach this directly in Dart code?
So personally for me, I find that the way that I work best, at least with trying out new prompts and experimentation, is going to AI Studio and using that as a sort of a scratch pad to test out different types of prompts. The nice thing is one, it saves my prompts, and so I sometimes just in between meetings and things like that, I'll have a tendency to like have to context switch between projects. So I don't always just get a whole session to sit down and just start writing and working. So I like the fact that in AI Studio I can type in prompts, try tweak prompts a little bit, and then I can save it, go do something else, and then come back. Then I'll then come in and then put it into code, because then you're less so, there's less of that churn. Essentially sort of similar to writing a script doc, actually, like how we write our YouTube scripts. I'll first write it all in a Google Doc, and then our video production folks will copy and paste it over to the teleprompter software, right? You're not just writing it all as one inline script, we're writing it in a table. So I find that that's just easier as a whole to do.
Khanh, you're showing how the sausage is made here.
I'm sorry.
It's okay. Another interesting question.
Folks.
What's that, sorry?
I just hope it helps folks. If that gets folks use it, makes it easier for folks to use the SDK, I'm super happy to give away all of the magic.
Yeah, absolutely. I meant on how our YouTube videos are made, but good question here. And I think this is which is share my understanding of the answer to this question, and then also just check that against everyone's knowledge and yours. It's certainly as well, Khanh. But asking about how do you add contextual info to the model, like the user's location, type of an account, to again kind of more to get better refined answers back. And that is where, well, first of all, Khanh, do you have thoughts on this? I have thoughts, but I always talk first because I love the sound of my own voice.
You're always free to talk first, Craig. At least for in the way that I've done this, it's just in as part of the text prompt. The model right now, at least for me, the way that I've been adding this context, is just adding it sort of as a part of the prompt as a whole. There.
Yeah. So if the user types in something, you send that to the server, but you're not actually contractually obligated to send exactly and only what they sent, right? You could dress it in front with some more text that says, the following is written by a user from such and such location and who has such and such other attributes. Please answer the question for them specifically, and then their prompt comes below it, and the LLM will just absorb all of that and give you something back. That's a super good question.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm gonna actually take a moment and I'm gonna do a quick preview. We're working on another YouTube video right now that also uses the SDK, and it essentially goes over a lot more in depth in sort of how we prepped those prompts there. So there's a YouTube video coming for it, and so that will be covered more in depth at a later time, essentially. Just because I think that covered a lot more of the prompting aspect as opposed to the SDK. So we don't, so we are just taking a little bit more time before we release that. All right. Let's see here. Do we miss any questions? Oh, yes. And Todd's hopping in for us here. Thank you. So someone asked, what's the surprise announcement? And the announcement was the Google AI Dart SDK.
Mm-hmm. Which we've just been walking through and seeing in action. And
Todd's on moderator duty today.
Yeah.
Replying to comments. Thank you. I think Eric as well.
Yeah, we all, we often, Andrew is here as well, the author of the blog post. We've often got a lot of great support, which is just lovely. Coming soon to Google AI Studio is the ability to copy your Dart code once you've honed your prompts. Whoa. Copy. Andrew, I'm coming soon to Google AI Studio is the ability to copy your Dart code. Like what code is being copied?
The Dart code. So you can get Dart code.
Oh, so like you ask Gemini to write some Dart code for you, and then there'll just be like a quick copy this code button.
Copy.
Am I understanding that right?
Copy code button.
Oh, well, we're really, Khanh, do you think there's ever been a time in history when a group of people have worked so hard to make themselves obsolete? Like the Pony Express didn't invent the telegram, and we're also making ourselves obsolete with our own tool. It would be like if plumbers built the replacement for plumbers out of pipes, Like, has this ever happened in history?
I mean, I don't know. I don't know about you, but at least in terms of, like, I think of it as like a useful tool, right? Like, I feel like it helps us do our job better as opposed to making ourselves obsolete, At least for me, like, I found that it's made me a lot more productive. But
it absolutely makes me more productive as well. And here's to that remaining the status quo.
I don't know. It's one of those things where I'm like, like you wouldn't, like someone who works in construction wouldn't like make their own hammers. Like now we have AI to help us do things, make us a little bit more efficient. So I guess it's two sides of the same coin.
Yeah, but it's making the hammer that doesn't need your arm anymore, right? Anyway, so do you think it's Magic 8 Ball time?
Magic 8 Ball time? Do we get any other suggestions for what we should build?
I think we're living in a suggestion desert. Everyone is obviously very excited about the Magic 8 Ball, and there's been no votes cast in any direction.
Okay. All right. Magic 8 Ball it is. Okay. And I just have to share the context. I was telling Craig before we started streaming live that it took all of my willpower to not try and build this ahead of time, just because I know we're all about building it live and, trying to boring show, this sort of live coding. But for me, I am a person who likes to show up with like some sort of preparation. It's like, no, the live stream's got to be live.
Oh, we've got another thought from Andrew here. Once again, once you've gone through the process Khanh described of as shaping your use case prompts in Google AI Studio, e.g. the persona for a chat app, you won't need to hand code that code. So yeah, you do a lot of your prep work in Google AI Studio and then very seamlessly put that into your app. That's the way I understand that workflow.
All right. Cool. Magic 8 Ball time. All
right. So Khanh, how do you even think about this? How do you start? We're standing on top of this demo.
All right. So I'm thinking, why don't we can try, okay, we're gonna do exactly what I said we weren't gonna do. But so why don't we try to ask, like, just see what we get back when we ask it to be a magic 8 ball, right?
Oh, yeah.
Let's
Great.
let's see. You are a 8 ball.
Gosh, it'll be so funny if it just nails this and we're done. Well, there we go.
All right. Can y'all see the text?
Oh, nice. I'm glad that that works. Oh, because you're on web. Wonderful. All right. So, yeah, it said, as a magic 8 ball, I'm here to provide you with guidance and insight. Ask me your question and I will reveal the answer hidden within the realm of possibilities. Ooh,
Okay.
juicy.
All right. Okay. So what if we ask it, will it rain tomorrow?
So we're getting
Concentrate
concentrate.
and
Oh, it's
okay.
already pretty good. All right. So,
Um,
Khan, we got to follow the instructions here.
okay.
Concentrate.
Concentrate. We're really concentrating.
Okay. Ask again.
All right. Okay. What's another question? Is the sky falling?
Oh, no. I think we got to
Big and
ask if it's
little?
going to rain tomorrow again. Oh, don't count on it.
Okay.
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 So
Yeah.
that feels like it is in aligned. It is aligned with probabilities.
Okay.
Uh,
I wonder what if we asked it
will I win the
a
lottery
question
tomorrow?
that's not a yes or no question, or yes, no, or
Oh,
maybe question, right?
interesting. That's orthogonal to the design of the 8 ball, but we could see what it does.
I don't know. Let's see. Let's try.
How did you come
Let's
to have 8 answers? 8 sides? I don't know. That's not a
How
yes or no.
many answers does a magic 8 ball have? Is that, I don't know what the thing inside the magic 8 ball is.
So it's kind of just
It's
got like a
it's
generic fortune teller vibe, which I think is good.
yes. Yeah. Let's see. What someone wants to ask, what are the 7 wonders of the world?
Oh,
Oh, sorry. I just saw a
fact.
question here that is
Ro wants me to narrate the SDK, and I gotta say, so do I. That sounds fun.
I just saw a comment that asked, is there a way to make prompts attach an audio or an image? So audio, not at the moment, but an image you can, and in the repo itself, so as part of the package, there is an example of that. So in this case, it uploads 2 images and asks it what do you see in the image. So if you take a look at that, that's exactly how you can upload images. So as you can see here, there's a comment that says it only accepts image MIME types right now.
Yeah, and it doesn't yet, like if you just go to the Gemini website and ask it to draw you stuff, it will, and it's cool. This API doesn't yet give images out. I don't know if that's on the roadmap, but since images can go in, I would imagine eventually. But I just made that up, so nobody quote me on it.
Okay.
Okay, so if we want to make this a refined Magic 8 ball, we're starting from a place where it's already doing a pretty good job.
Yeah. I wonder if this is a case of, do you think we can establish a prompt where it will not answer these questions?
Hmm.
Right. So, like, I wonder if you could give it instructions where you say, what are the 7 wonders of the world? And it says, oh, I am a magic 8 ball and I am incapable of answering such
Hmm.
questions. Right. Or try again or something like
Right.
that.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Okay. And is this a thing that you would mention? Like, would you tackle this kind of refinement in Google AI Studio?
Yes. So this would typically be something that we would want to do in Google AI Studio, just because you could go through and like modify it a little bit more.
Okay. And I forget, are you prepared? Are you able to do that on the stream, or is there a reason why you can't? That's
So
fine.
I have a few different things going on in Google AI Studio right now, so I don't necessarily want to share that screen, but I can
Gotcha.
go through it
Okay.
and sort of share the output here.
Okay. Yeah, we can
Uh,
also, I mean, if it's just prompt construction, we could also just type that extra
yeah,
info, like
we could
text
do that
edit
here. Yeah,
could be where we refine the prompt. And
yeah.
then uh the
Um,
just keep pasting the edited
yeah,
prompt into the app.
yeah. We can try that. Because essentially, what we can do is exactly what you said, and then we would still get the same result because it's still the same API on the back end.
Mm, right, right,
Okay.
right. There are some folks asking, in terms of different availability, normally that's just like administrative
Yeah.
hurdles in the various jurisdictions, like got
Yep.
to satisfy
Yeah.
certain requirements for privacy and whatnot, and they work on that as they go.
Yep. So that is beyond beyond the scope of the API itself. Just
Mhm.
um, what's on the back end. Yep. Mm. Will it be able to build a pie chart based on provided spreadsheet with data points? So no, right now you get text back. So text is the only output that you can get from the SDK at the moment.
Yeah, I think for something like that, you would want to, and I have not tested that in
Yeah.
like raw Gemini, but if you gave Gemini a CSV of data and asked it to render something for you, I don't know what it would do. That's an interesting question.
Um, okay, so I think we've
All right, so
covered. Okay.
we're
Okay.
prompting, or we're trying to come up with the correct prompt to get it to not step outside the bounds of
Yeah.
a a magic 8 ball, right?
Right.
So what are you thinking? What should we type?
So so let's say we can say you are a magic 8 ball again, right? I feel like that is
Great
a good place to
opening.
start. Like it gave us like pretty good answers
Yep.
to begin with.
Maybe we can
Um
remind it more about its yes no nature and
mhm,
direct it away from open-ended questions.
yeah.
Like you
So
give
what would
cryptic yes no answers, but non-committal answers to open-ended questions, maybe something like that.
yeah, cryptic. Um
Yes or no.
yes or no? Yes. Yes, no, or maybe, right?
True. Yes.
Or
That's right.
it's been I must admit it's been a little while since I've owned a magic 8 ball. You
Con,
ever
I use
give
mine every day. What are you talking about?
Oh, really? I feel like I need to get on that ship. But I guess if we have an app, I can just ask the Magic 8 Ball Gemini app
Hmm.
and not have to buy a Magic 8 Ball, right?
Yep.
Um, yes, no, maybe answer to questions. Um, however, right, do not give what's a vague, non-committal.
Yep.
Did I spell?
I think Gemini will know what you mean. I'm not sure how many letters are in committal either. I did know there
non
weren't two L's, but then you fix that right away.
non wait, did I? Why for some reason that just looks weird, but I think that's the correct
It
spelling.
does, but it's probably right.
Non-committal. Okay. Maybe it's just like typing sentences in an IDE is what's throwing me off, and it's not a markdown file. Vague
All
non-committal
right.
answers.
You've definitely spelled it correctly.
Okay. Open-ended open-ended
Question.
questions.
Yeah. And
Okay.
then, so here's another thought about how to even use this API. Instead of just having this be like set once in the beginning of the conversation and then hoping it remembers these instructions for the rest of the session, does it make sense instead to address every question in this kind of metadata,
Right.
and then we might rephrase it to um, give a cryptic yes no or maybe answer to the question below. However,
That's a good point. Yeah.
the question below is open-ended. Give a vague non-committal answer.
Question
And we'll send
below.
that every time.
Okay, if the question below is open-ended, right?
Yep.
Give
a vague non-committal
a
answer.
non-committal answer. There we go. Something like that.
Perfect.
Okay.
Well, it's a perfect representation of my idea that I don't know if it's correct or not.
Well, we'll find out.
Well, and then now, what question should we ask it?
That's a very good question. How can I make pancakes?
So this should be a non-answer.
Yes.
But just can I make pancakes would be a yes answer. Or it would be
Yes.
answerable. Batter up.
Batter up. That's pretty cool.
Great. That's so good.
I was about to say that's like a Craig tier humor right there.
Oh, I'm honored. Oh, I'm just honored. It was fast on that. For any again non-English speakers who aren't following the pun, batter up is a baseball line if you're about to be the next batter in a baseball game, and of course pancakes are made out of batter, so that's just so good, and it's kind of non-committal, right?
Yeah.
It's like it's just perfect. I'm
What if
trying
we
not to
ask it?
stimp for Gemini here, but I hit a home run on that one. Another baseball pun.
What if we ask it the same question as we did before?
It's doing great.
It's doing a great job.
Yeah.
Do we
So
want
now,
to try to give it a little bit more personality? It would be great if one day I could train a model to be like, you just feed it all of your Craig jokes, and then it could answer it's a magic 8-ball, but in the voice of Craig.
I would love to see that project.
Okay. How would you describe your humor? I feel like it's witty.
Derivative, embarrassing, obviously self-deprecating, ironic, and childish.
Witty.
those are the 5.
I really don't agree with those. I guess I always laugh at your jokes, so we probably share the same sense of humor.
Well, welcome to the club, God. Sorry that you had to learn about your childishness this way while everyone was watching.
Okay.
All
right.
Yeah. So let's. How could we do something more clever with this? Also, one thing that I always reflect on with this is how, when Khanh and I talked about this beforehand, I imagined that we were going to be spending way more time in Dart code than we are. And that really is kind of what's so cool about LLMs, is that you spend way less time in Dart code or in your application code than you do with other tasks. Like, we're just thinking about how to talk to this thing. And then the SDK, as some folks have also pointed out, is like, yeah, it's just kind of a thin HTTP wrapper. It handles the headers for you, manages the conversation context, all that kind of stuff. Like, yep, it is pretty thin. So even the SDK is not like a ton there. And then you just kind of spend your whole time trying to figure out how to talk to this machine and get it to give you a good answer. So
Yep.
what do you think, John?
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, I think that hits the nail on the head, right? Essentially what this SDK is, you just expect you can give it some information, either that's a text or an image, and then you get back a string. So if you think about it in that way, your Flutter app can just find, you want to present that information in a nice way. And if you think of that way, because I think for me originally, like AI felt very daunting. I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. But I mean, with like models being, readily available, I realized that, okay, I need to learn this thing. And so I spent some time working on a side project. And I think like 60-70% of the time was spent like trying to figure out how to prompt and understanding how this prompting thing works. And then the other 30 was building the app, because I could build the app just like I would build any other app, right? It's just a UI to display that information.
Yep. Yeah, you're swapping strings with a way more competent partner.
Yep.
I do love Jim Carrey as well.
What's the Jim Carrey? Oh, I wonder if you could just ask it to be give a Jim Carrey in
The thing about Jim Carrey is it's all in the delivery, just the plain
Oh, that's
text
true.
of
Yeah,
Jim
it's all about
Carrey
the voice.
answers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Alrighty then.
All right. Mangurta said 100K likes, and I create a Craig AI smart assistant that only uses puns for answers.
Well,
How do I like it 999,000 times?
Let's try to just do this right now.
Okay.
Let's adjust this answer and have it only respond in puns.
Answer below.
So, yeah, give a
Cryptic.
And then maybe like as a pun.
Insert as a pun.
Yeah.
To the question below, right?
Yeah, give a vague non-committal pun as an answer or something.
Non-committal pun as an answer, like that.
Yeah. All right, let's see. And now what? How about why don't arm hairs get split ends?
Why don't arm hairs get split ends? Things I did not expect to be typing in like into my keyboard today.
Hair today, split ends tomorrow. Oh, that's pretty good. That's quite good. Here today, gone tomorrow is the line that it's riffing off of. Ah, man. Okay. Folks, we need more questions that it can give us answers to.
So I think we get like 3 or 4 of these prompts going, we can then start building it into the app. I think I want to make sure we get something to show folks before time runs out.
Oh, great. I'm excited that you're still thinking, you still have some of that kind of in mind. That's great. Well, I mean, do we need more of that, or do you already have what would we do? What are you imagining?
So I'm imagining like this would just be something. So I think and a funny thing that we now want to think about is parsing the data that comes back, right? Because right now we're looping through the chat, and we're just displaying all of the text as a message. And so if we're setting this as giving this as context to the prompt, it will now be part of what is considered the user message. So I think it would be interesting to see if we could parse that out. I'm thinking that we just add it as a second piece of content to the message so that we can just check that first value to see if it has the system prompt in it. And then if it is, then we don't display it. Does that make sense?
I think so. And yeah, let's do it.
All right. What? Oh, okay. We have another one more question. What's the best color? Ah, I want the context. And if the answer is either, if it's not vague and it's not blue, it's wrong.
Oh, blue is the best color?
I like blue.
I mean, I don't dislike blue. Kind of partial to orange.
Oh, I do like orange too. You knew. Okay, it's working. I think our prompt works. And I swear we did not try to come up with this beforehand.
Man, I'm just really in awe of the quality of these responses. So
you
good.
Knew. Okay.
Yeah, Mangurdas, you deserve to be proud.
We go into, I think we should start in send message. What do you think?
Yep.
All right, let's pop in send message. All right. Let's see here. So we go to content and get text. So the message here is the message that that the user has typed in. So let's say on this string, what do you think we call it? Context.
Yeah, I think that's good.
And then let's make this a triple.
The
Just in case we need
old
to.
fancy string.
There you go. All right. What did I forget? Okay, it's not used. Okay. All right. So your Magic 8 Ball, give okay, cool. So that's the context. And so now we want to append it in front of each message. And so if we go down here, let's say we do, actually, let me add can we add a end line there?
I like the new line, yeah.
New line, and then we can add text. Let me do that. We can try that and see how far that gets us.
I have a feeling it's going to get us exactly as far as we were before.
As we are. But we'll be seeing the entire context, which I think that is what we're going to want to filter out.
Yeah, that'll be interesting. I'd like to see what we get back with no doing nothing special. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's see. Blue is the best. Oh, looks like, that hasn't wrapped. There you go.
Wait, why is it blue?
Why is this?
Why did the UI change so much?
What is that?
Is it something about the fact that it? No.
Is it my fancy? Is that my fancy string?
I can't.
Nope.
I would think no. Try to get rid of the new line. Maybe there's something in the widget's construction about like if there's a new line. But even that seems crazy.
That doesn't seem right. That's interesting.
Oh. Parker says that it's using Flutter Markdown.
Oh, put in a code block or
Parker, do you happen to know why it did that?
Parker is always my savior here. Put it in a
Yeah, that's all right. Well, anyway, so that mystery is solved, even if the behavior is a surprise. Okay, so now is what you were saying we wanted to display.
Yes. Well, we don't want that you are a Magic 8 Ball, right? Like if
Right.
you're a user interacting with this app.
And so that's going to start on like line 199, right? Where we say text equals response.text.
There we go. There you go. That fixes it.
Oh, the magic string had new lines in it.
Yeah.
Okay. I didn't even think about that. So it was the new lines,
that clears it up.
But also the magic string.
Okay. All right. Okay. Now we're back in business. Okay. So now you see here, right? Like this is kind of what I'm referencing. I just realized this is not selectable text. We should change that. I will add a PR to do that as well. So you are Magic 8 Ball. So this part here, we don't necessarily want to show the user.
Right. But it's coming back out in line 199. Oh, no, that's the response. Sorry.
No. So yeah, so this here is essentially just checking to make sure there's no errors. This is being stored as part of the chat history.
Right. So it's up in the message widget.
Yeah. So I am wondering if there's...
Yeah, no, I think it's all in that method.
Yeah. The content.text. So I'm thinking the best way to approach this would to be essentially add a delineator as to where the prompt starts. Right? And then you could split that string before we render it and only show like the second part of it. But I don't know if that's necessarily
I think that would work for today.
Yeah. I think long term you would not do that.
Yeah, and I mean you can probably pick honestly a delimiter so random and specific that like no one will ever type it in their message and you'd be fine.
Yeah.
But it'd be interesting to also explore the send message method and like see what other options are available there. But maybe we start with just like the delimiter.
We could pop into the send message and see where that gets us.
Yeah,
Because I'm trying to
chat.send
think what
message.
the quick and dirtiest way to do that, right? And I feel like that's like the
Oh, content. No, we want to go to the
yeah
content class.
yeah
I didn't even realize.
content.
Yeah, so role parts. So a list of parts. So that is almost certainly what we want. And by the way, folks, here you can see how you would send an image in. There's all these other
Yeah.
all these other constructors. The data image taking in the uint8 list, that's the bytes of an image. So Khanh, what I think we want to do instead of using the text constructor, we want to, if you look at line 33 on the right,
Yes.
on the right hand side, we see the raw constructor, and we want to do that and give it two text parts, one being the meta information, and then the second one being what the user typed. And I'm guessing
Right.
that is going to, oh no, again, the response still doesn't, the response isn't going to be implied, or the response isn't going to be impacted by this.
Mhm.
So I think that, and then we'll go into the message.
Right. So we're
Message
essentially
widget.
doing what we saw in that first sample, like the simple text sample here. We can construct the content ourselves, right? And then when we're looping through, we can just toss out that first piece of text content that we've given as part of the prompt. Nate mentioned substring would work great here. It's a constant prefix to remove.
So Nate, do you yeah, I guess that's true. And you'd always know it's in the beginning. Do you think, in your mind, is that the point? Or like, I had imagined the different text parts. By the way, Nate is what core long time Dart team engineer, has given us all much of what Dart does. Thank you, Nate. And worked on this SDK. So we're talking to someone who knows what's up. These text parts in the content class, are they not like for exactly this in term, if it's like, oh no, don't bother with text parts because you can just use the substring, then I guess I would wonder next, like, what are the text parts for? But Khanh, we do have a nudge from Nate.
Substring.
Just
We'll
use
take
the
a substring.
Yeah, I should be able to check if the content role is user, then remove the prefix. Yep. You know that you sent all strings will have the same prefix. Yeah, for sure. So I'm curious what the text parts are for. Like when would we want to lean into having more than one? But for now, Khanh, I guess we can pull that context variable out somewhere higher up and then just keep attaching it how you're doing and remove it on the other end.
All right, let's see. Let's pull this up higher. Did I? Oh, we can't do that.
Well, you will be able
Actually,
to,
we
because
want to keep it there.
Yeah, context will exist again soon. This is a stateful widget. Yeah, so you just put it up top here.
I'm just gonna pop it up top right here.
Nice.
Context.
Why is it mad?
Oh, context.
Oh, we're totally shadowing that variable name. Yeah. Meta prompt. I don't know.
Content. Prompt.
Okay. Oh, that's nice. I didn't know that if you made a variable called context that there was a lint to swat your hand away. That's great.
That may not have been the first time that I've gotten that error.
Well, valuable lint then. Okay, so now you just have to go down to that method and change context to prompt.
Yep. Nate also mentioned we could use the text parts to split it up. It will work well if the prefix is rotating.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
All right. Let me double check here.
All right, yeah, so I think we can go back down to the sent message method and change the context variable to prompt. Yeah. And now in the build method.
Build method here.
Yeah, Nate, that is exactly what I was thinking.
Yep, that's Is there?
So, but in the message widget, I guess we'd probably want to do it after line 139.
Yeah. So my question here, so here's like the message widget, right?
Mhm.
Wouldn't we necessarily want to strip that out when we're still within the context of loading the chat history? Because right now the message widget is sort of independent of anything related to our data,
Yeah.
right? And so
Totally.
in
We
this
do it here.
case, text is just being passed through. So the message widget does not care what text it's rendering.
Yep.
It just wants to know if it's from the user, if it's just whatever string. Just tell me what string to put out.
Yeah, I think we want to do it on
we want to
after
modify
line
it here.
139. Yeah.
Yeah. So we do text equals, okay, and do join, and then we want to do.
Well, you want to do this conditionally. So I think I would
Yeah.
do it on a new line because this all needs to happen within a conditional check on whether or not the content.role equals user.
Yeah. Let's see. Content.role user.
Which is a string.
Oh, I think that's a string. Yeah.
Nice.
All right. And then we'll also, so if it is user, want to do text dot replace.
Yeah, substring.
Substring.
Oh, replace. Yeah, that would work.
Wait, I guess either
Yeah.
way, will work. Let's do substring. And start would be prompt.
Yep. Dot length.
Dot length. There we go.
Yep. Assign all that to text.
There you go.
I think we're good. Ship it.
Ship it. Okay. All right. Someone just said they added Gemini completions to my note-taking app. Please send it to us on Twitter. Would love to check it out.
Yeah, that's incredible.
Yeah. Is it a Dart Flutter app?
20
You're so
points.
fast.
20 points to your.
We've gotten to a magic 8-ball.
Yeah, we've written.
And you built like autocomplete into your note-taking app already.
Wow. I appreciate the LOL at the end of that. I think it's really appropriate. The Bear app, but in Flutter. Whoa, nice.
What's the Bear app?
Note-taking app.
Oh, okay. I have to check it out. I have a note-taking app problem. I have too many of them, and then my notes are scattered all over the place. Okay. So back to the prompt. Okay, what was the question we asked last time? What time is it? There you go.
Nice. There was another question someone had, like, what is the migration pattern of orcas? Oh, and Ezra had a fun idea where we just keep asking it, are you sure? And apparently other LLMs were they're always on the porpoise. Okay. Like purpose, I guess. Not bad. So Ezra says, can you try? Are you sure? Or you're so wrong. Try again and just see what happens. Now that would probably not work so well with this prompt.
Let's see. I don't know. You sure? I'm positive. You're just gonna keep getting, because it's a yes or no maybe question.
Right. Whoa. You bet your bottom dollar. X2 doubtful. 3 if it is decidedly so. 4 reply hazy. Try again. Oh, so it just kind of like burped up the whole manifest of the magic 10 ball in this case. Give it again. Are you sure? That's responded to something.
Don't bet on it.
Oh,
what was Ezra's other question? It was like,
try again.
You are so wrong. Try again.
You're so wrong. Try again. Again, all of the all of these are being dressed in that specific instruction, which who knows how that's influencing the output.
Right. I mean, if we had given these questions without that context for the prompt, I wonder what kind of like then it can give, you know, a lot more, like there's a more broader bucket of answers that it could come from, right? It wouldn't just be answering as a magic 8-ball.
Well, Khanh, I think we have achieved our goal here.
Yeah.
You wanted to talk about like what folks in the community are building. We've already got one such submission there, a note-taking apps autocomplete, which is pretty great. But we definitely love to hear more on Twitter or elsewhere.
Yeah, for sure. Like send it our way. Like I feel like, you know, at least for me, I love poking through just new apps, especially Flutter apps, doing cool things. So if you're building things with the SDK, please send it our way. I'm at Khanh Nguyen on Twitter. And so like, if you want to at Flutter Dev as well, we are there. So Craig, you're Craig Labenz, right?
Yeah, underscore. There's a different Craig Labenz. He doesn't have the. He beat me.
But yeah, if you're building anything cool, let us know. And you know, as you know, more features come out, we'll obviously keep covering it. This is sort of the thing that I've been spending a lot of my time on, just playing around and figuring out this whole AI thing and working with Gemini and all of that. So if y'all have any ideas as to what resources would actually make working with this SDK and working with Gemini easier or just a more pleasant experience as Dart and Flutter developers, please do send that my way as well. And as a quick plug as well for the Global Gamers Challenge. So if y'all are looking for a fun reason to try out this particular package, the Google Generative AI package, the Global Gamers Challenge is a thing that's happening. There's a lot of fun prizes involved. But unfortunately, Craig and I can't compete because, you know, we work on the Flutter team at Google. So y'all can you know, pull in some Gemini awesomeness and use it there. But yeah, let us know what you're building.
Well, Khanh, thanks for coming on the show. I think
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it was a great tour of the app. Well shown, well coded when we finally got to typing a little bit. Probably the least typing that's ever happened in an episode. But if that's not a demo of the power of LLMs, then I don't know what is. So, folks, looking forward, I'm going to be doing a little work travel, going to a couple events in the next 2 weeks. So Observable Flutter is going to take 2 weeks off, and then I'll be back in March. And the next episode is going to start my next long-lived project that will, kind of like the old video game did, it'll be what I work on between other guests and other topics. So I would say, you know, you won't want to miss that, but maybe you do. You know, I'm not going to tell you what you want, but I'm looking forward to that. I'm definitely looking forward to the technology that I'm going to use in that project, which of course is Dart and Flutter based, and what I'm going to build. So I will see everyone in March. And Khanh, any final words on your end?
Just have fun on your travels, and please send pictures.
Yeah, well, definitely will do on that. All right, folks.
Thanks everyone for joining. Have a good one.